Hey everybody, I just got breaking news for you. I let a brown log out of my own Elden Ring, so it fits with the video. Let's get into it. Skip it up and that up. So is everyone ready for a Souls game story? I'm here with Jay, who is my editor. He might be naked now as we're filming this. I am naked from the pants down. You just can't see. This is a family-friendly show. Jay, how are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
I am lovely. And we're going to start off with a little story because how we got to me playing Elden Ring is quite interesting. I'll keep the story 30 seconds long. It started with a tickled man on the internet that I decided to make a video on. Jay said, hey, I know you think that Elden Ring should have a more accessible mode, and I don't agree with you. We should do a debate video. Well, I have bad news for you. I no longer agree that Elden Ring should have a more accessible mode because I think the game is absolutely amazing exactly the way it is. And with how much I've played of it so far, things could change. It may end up being like one of my top 5 games I've ever played. Best games of all time, which is nuts. So obviously, you know, scores and everything like that. I'm looking at them now. It has a PS5 Metacritic score of 96 based on 76 reviews, 7.9 user score, which I guarantee you the people that are probably disliking it probably thought like I did before I played the game. And are just like, oh, it's another Souls game. I'm going to die in 30 seconds. And then it has a PC Metascore or Metacritic rating of a 95 based on 55 users and a 6.7. I'm pretty sure I know why that is. I heard there's optimization issues on PC. So that score, I feel, probably is a little more justified. But the game itself is amazing, technical issues aside. So, Jay, what do you think? You're the guy who actually came to me with this idea after that whole interesting tickled man fiasco happened. And you know that my take was much different in the beginning. What do you feel about me changing my take after playing this?
Well, in the beginning when you first told me, oh, I'm not, you know, it needs an easy mode. And I was thinking like, I don't think this game needs an easy mode. And then the creator of the game came out and basically said that they made a game, either you enjoy it or you don't enjoy it. And that's sort of the side I'm always going to be on. If somebody creates something, that's a question I had for you. Let's actually talk about that quickly here. Why did you switch your opinion from it should have an easy mode and now it should just be the game, and if you don't like it, you don't like it?
Usually, this is the biggest thing, and here is the one that shocked me. I am not a huge open world guy. I feel a lot of times that games are made open world because they just want to fluff them up to justify the $70 price point. With a Souls game like Elden Ring, that's the easy mode. The game is still hard as hell, don't get me wrong, but if there's something you can't overcome, whether it be a boss, like for example, I couldn't overcome Margit the Fell Omen, there's a billion other things that you could do. You could just kill a bunch of enemies over and over again and learn how to block and parry, and you could learn the combat, and every time you kill an enemy, you get more runes, and runes you could level up with, which you'll need to do. And you could the whole world is like a playground. And on live stream, there was a bunch of people that helped me. That's one thing cool, is that the Elden Ring community or Souls community actually is very helpful, minus when someone super chatted me and told me that I could double jump off a big cliff with a horse and not have any damage happen, and I died, which, well played by them. But it was just, everything about the game just felt very organic, and it teaches you just by you experiencing it. And that is what I thought was really cool. And that was I've played other Souls games before too, and that's kind of the same thing. I mean, they give you like, okay, you have to hit R1 to do a weak attack, and R2, they tell you that, but they teach you by you making mistakes. And the nice thing about Elden Ring is that, okay, in a other Souls game where it's somewhat linear, there's still like branches and things like that. You got to do what you got to do. If you can't do it, too goddamn bad. Here, you could just go off and, okay, I couldn't beat Margit the first billion times I fought the boss, and so I went off and just explored and got different weapons, and I got wolf summons, which I actually ended up killing Margit with, and I got a jellyfish summons, and there's just, even if you can't progress at the speed that you think you're going to, you're not going to be bored. And that is the biggest, this is the first time I could say that with an open world game I can't even remember the last time I truly enjoyed an open world game like I'm enjoying Elden Ring.
Yeah, the thing about the game that a lot of people aren't quite understanding is that, just like you said, and I'm just reiterating in case people didn't catch that, but the easy mode is actually built into the game. So if you can't beat something, there's a way to actually achieve much, stronger weapons, better magic, spells and casting and all of that stuff. You just have to go about it a different route. Just like you said, it's this massive adventure game where you're always discovering something new. Like, I got to ask you this, you've been playing it nonstop for days now. While you're playing the game, how many times do you come across something you haven't seen, like a cave or some sort of boss encounter or an enemy you haven't seen, or, it's like, it's nonstop in this game. It's nonstop.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. So I ended up beating Margit the Fell Omen, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go screw around, maybe get some more runes. So I went off to like the complete opposite side of the map, and there was a giant bear there. It was insane. And then I found some cave, and I knew had no business being there. And I got lucky. I only died once, but the enemies were, granted, I leveled up and got a more powerful sword at that point, but the enemies were pretty tough. But I survived, and it was just like, that's the thing about it too, is that it's rewarding. Even when you go to an area where you aren't supposed to be, just the thrill of like being there and surviving and getting through it, and you accrue ruins from killing these enemies, and that feel the best way to describe it is it's an enjoyable feel of dread. Meaning that in another open world, okay, you play a Far Cry game, what's going to happen? A bear is going to bite your nuts, and you're going to pump a buckshot in him with a shotgun, and the bear is dead. Here it's like, you don't know what's going to happen next. There may be a pack of wolves that come out. There may be a giant. There's like literally this area where these multiple giants going around, and even if you're on horseback, because you do get a horse named Torrent, that they still may get you. And I haven't felt that sense of dread in a good way since I've been a kid. Like, the last time I remember feeling something like that was not a kid, let's say Resident Evil 4, but I remember with the early Castlevania games, where Castlevania 1, you're going there, those things that could crush you, and you're always like, if you even touch a pixel of them, you could die. And that's how it felt. It felt like there was nothing in so far as I've played, nothing feels like fluff in Elden Ring. And for a open world game to not feel like it has fluff is huge. Because
also on this scale is unbelievable. Like, when you start to open the map up, it's like your head explodes.
And and you could just see so far off in the distance. And let me talk about something too. I don't know. People keep on saying they don't think the game visually is stunning. I think it's one of the best looking games I've ever seen. I have my glasses are old, but I still see good out of them. When you're going to Stormhill and you have like the wind blowing, and then sometimes there's rain, and then you see the vegetation moving with the wind. I've never seen anything like that. And you combine it together with really solid combat. I love the fact that you could also do jump and do strong attacks in Elden Ring. And it's nice to not just, this is with all Souls games, but that's another thing I enjoyed about it too, now that I'm getting really into a Souls game, is that the combat isn't repetitive. Every time you're at a rune and you rest, all the enemies respawn, because then you could just cheese if they didn't respawn the enemies. And you could have the same guards, like at the gate that you go through before you get to this, believe it's Stormhill. Every single time it could be a different experience. You may plow right through all the enemies and have no issues and not even take a hit. And the next time, one of the soldiers will end up killing you. And that's the thing. It never feels boring. It never feels like, all right, I'm just doing something for the sake of doing it, or I'm doing a fetch quest. And then you combine it with the fact that it's always challenging, and every boss gives you that adrenaline rush. Like, you feel accomplished. When I beat Margit, I haven't felt a sense of accomplishment like that. The last time was when I actually finally beat Castlevania for the NES in 2019, and that's when I got to Dracula. And that Margit's the first main boss, so I have a hell of a way to go, even though I put a decent amount of hours into the game.
Yeah, doesn't it actually feel good to play this game? Like, a lot of people assume it's going to be a difficult thing to get into, but once you get over that bit of that hump of learning that, yeah, you can get new weapons and all these abilities, and then you're going to overcome by learning and dying, of course. Isn't it one of the best experiences in gaming that you've had forever? I mean, I have a story really quickly here. I could never tell you the name of the area on the map, but there was this, and maybe a minor spoiler warning here, but I came across this forest and these ruins, and there was this witch that was apparently living inside of this house. So the game is designed in a way where every second you're out there, there's an amazing encounter. So I'm coming up to this house, and I see all these like goblins outside. So I take out the goblins, and then this giant goblin comes out. I'm like, that must be the witch. It's got some weird name. So I take it out, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, okay, that's the witch, right? No, it isn't the witch. I go through the ruins to look through more. All of a sudden, this giant witch comes out, and it's unreal. The game is unbelievable because it sets you up to believe that, yeah, you've accomplished something here, and it feels great, but just wait, because you're about to face something even more difficult. And
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know there's plenty more. Like, yeah, okay, you feel accomplished beating, like I feel accomplished beating Margit, but I know, like I went through after you beat that boss, and there were these birds with like knives on their claws that ended up killing me, and that's not even a boss, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ. But you want to keep going. And I'll end the video with this too, because we don't want to review. I always make talking about games 30 minutes USA. You got to give it a couple hours. I would say 3 hours. If you still don't like it, then all right, fine. But you're gonna get out into the open world, and you're going to see the Horse Sentinel, this giant, it's like a boss right in the beginning that I still, even though I beat Margit, I kind of have no business going up against. You're going to see them like, this game got to be kidding me, man. And if try to go to the Horse Sentinel, especially if you're at like level 1, good luck, one swipe and you're done. And that's how the game gets you. And that's part of what a From Software game is. So you're going to see that and be like, oh man, this is, there's no way. I'm telling you, give it more of a chance. Don't let it intimidate you. It did that to me. Give it time. Learn the controls. Learn the combat. Learn to parry. Learn to stealth. And then it made me... this is now one of my favorite games of all time, and I can't wait to get back into it when I'm running on more than 1 hour of sleep because my children are here. But it's absolutely amazing, and it's one of the... not only best open world games I ever played right now, could change, but it's one of the best games. I could say it's, like I said, in my top 5 of all time. It's made me a huge Souls fan, and I feel like it's a spiritual successor to what Castlevania should have become.
So if you're the type of person who's, let's just be honest, not scared to play a game like this, but sort of hesitant to get into something like this, really give it a try. I mean, it's something that you need to work at, and I don't believe every game needs an easy mode. So I feel like this game is perfect the way it is, and it is one of the best experiences I've ever had in gaming. I mean, it's not a video game. It's literally like an adventure. And the last thing I was going to ask you, Rich, it's like, so we close this out. Isn't it funny that once you really get into it, you also start to say, like, wait a second, I want to start the game over with a different class.
Yes.
Which is like, how often do you say that? Because there's so many different classes, and you're like, oh, I want to see what it's like to do, more of a close combat thing, or the magic, or a combination of both. Isn't it crazy the game actually is sort of forcing you to want to even go do that?
And it's amazing too, with how huge the game is. There's just the replay value on top of the fact that it's a huge game that it doesn't feel so far anyway like there's any fluff in it. So you have the replay value of a game with 100+ hours in it, you know, so we're 150 hours plus. Some people are like 250 hours into the game. And I'll end it with this. This is almost one I forgot. A lot of people are going to say, Rich, I don't have time for a game like this. Here's what I have to say to you. You could do short quests, save it, get back to it. You don't have to sit there for 30 hours every single time. And think about it this way. If you don't have a lot of time, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck because that game's going to last you a real long time. And it's so good that you're going to want to come back to it, even if you only play it in bite-sized pieces. So the bottom line is, I can't recommend this game enough. And I want to thank Jay for giving me the idea because of what that person said to play this game. Because initially I was going to say it needed an easier mode, but I don't think so anymore. It's awesome, and it's one of the best games I've ever played, and I can't wait to get back to it. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Jay, thank you for coming on. Have a good one.